Hi, I'm Maisarah and this is our Groupmates.
Hi, my name is Syafiqah.
Hi, I'm Yasmeen.
Hi, I'm Arisha.
Hello, I'm Maisarah. Before we move to the calculation, let me explain the purpose of each ratio. The purpose of the liquidity ratio is used to determine a company's ability to pay its short-term debt obligation. It helps determine if a company can use its current or liquid asset to cover its current liabilities. Current ratio is the simplest liquidity ratio to calculate and interpret.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nooraishah Binti Razali and I'm in charge with the calculation of ratios. For current ratio, as you can see here, it is current asset divided by current liabilities. It becomes 2.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Syarifah and Syafiqah. Now I'm going to present about compare with industry and state comments. Current ratio. As you can see here, khidmat bakti berhad current ratio is 2 and the industry average is 2.1. This shows that khidmat bakti berhad current ratio is lower than industry, which is not preferable.
Hi and Assalamualaikum, I'm Yasmeen. I'm going to explain to you about ways to improve our ratio. So first of all, for the liquidity of ratio, the ways to improve is by adding assets, maintaining liabilities or reducing liabilities.
Quick ratio. This ratio is similar to the current ratio, but it's a stricter test of liquidity. However, it only considers certain current assets such as cash, account receivable, and market securities.
Current assets minus inventory minus prepayment divided by current liabilities equals to 1.18.
Khidmat bakti berhad current ratio is 1.18 and industry average is 0.9 times. This shows that khidmat bakti berhad current ratio is better than industry and is preferable.
For the quick ratio, it would be better if it increased sales and inventory turnover, for example, increased turnover of inventory.
Inventory turnover ratio. It measures the number of times inventory is sold or used within the time period such as 1 year. This is to make sure the inventory quality, efficient buying practice, and inventory management.
Inventory turnover, it is sales divided by inventories. It is equals to 12.98.
Khidmat bakti berhad inventory turnover is 12.98 and the industry average is 6.5 times. This shows that khidmat bakti berhad inventory turnover ratio is excellent because it is higher than industry and it is preferable.
Efficiency ratios are known as assets management. To improve it, you need to have effective marketing or using smart pricing strategy.
Average collection periods determine the effectiveness of a company credit and collection effort in allowing the credit to customers.
Account receivable divided by sales times 365. Answer is 36.5, but I rounded it to become 37 days.
Khidmat bakti berhad shows that day sales outstanding there is 36.5 over 37 days. Meanwhile, industry average is 35 days. This shows that khidmat bakti berhad current ratio is lower than industry, which is not preferable.
Average collection ratio, we can reducing the percent draw on the business.
Non-current asset turnover ratio determines efficiency with a business use its non-current asset to generate revenue for the business.
The sales divided by non-current asset equals to 2.5.
Khidmat bakti berhad current asset turnover is 2.5. Meanwhile, industry average is 2.0 times. This shows that khidmat bakti berhad inventory turnover ratio is excellent because it is higher than industry and it is preferable.
In non-current assets turnover ratio, it can improve through improving efficiency and inventory management.
Total asset turnover ratio measures the ability of an organization to efficiently produce sales and is typically used by third parties to evaluate the operation of a business.
Which is sales divided by total asset. It is equals to 1.52.
Khidmat bakti berhad total asset turnover is 1.52. Meanwhile, industry average is 1.6 times. This shows that khidmat bakti berhad current ratio is lower than industry, which is not preferable.
Total assets turnover ratio. For this ratio, it can be improved by selling assets and increasing revenue.
Leverage ratio determines the level of debt load that a company has incurred.
For debt ratio, we have total liabilities divided by total assets. It is equals to 30.36%.
Khidmat bakti berhad debt ratio is 30.36%. Meanwhile, industry average is 40%. This shows that khidmat bakti berhad current ratio is lower than industry, which is good and preferable.
Next, moving on to leverage ratio displays about debt ratio that can be improved by inventory management and also restructure the debt.
Debt equity ratio. For debt equity ratio, it is current liabilities plus non-current liabilities divided by shareholders' equity. And the answer is 58.62%.
Hikmah Bati Berhad debt equity ratio is 58.62%, meanwhile industry average is 60 times. This shows that Hikmah Bati Berhad current ratio is lower than industry, which is good and preferable.
For debt equity rated, it need to be restructured debt and improve inventory management.
Time interest earned, the ability of a company to pay off all its short-term debt and long-term debt obligations.
I would like to explain time interest earned. It is earning before interest and taxes divided by interest. Answer is 6.67.
Hikmah Bati Berhad time interest earned is 6.67, meanwhile industry average is 7 times. This shows that Hikmah Bati Berhad current ratio is lower than industry, which is good and preferable.
And time interest earned, it need to be improvised through increasing the earnings and use greater level of equity.
Profitability ratios. It measures how effectively a company uses its resources to achieve profits. Gross profit margin measure a company efficiency in using labor and materials to produce their goods.
It is gross profit divided by sales, and the answer is 42.35.
Hikmah Bati Berhad gross profit margin is 42.35%, meanwhile industry average is 38%. This shows that Hikmah Bati Berhad current ratio is higher than industry, which is good and preferable.
To make it better, it need to increase their gross profit of their business.
Operating profit margin measure the account profitability of the company before tax, interest, and other non-operating expenses.
Operating income divided by sales revenue. It is equals to 14.12%.
Hikmah Bati Berhad operating profit margin is 14.12%, meanwhile industry average is 80%. This shows that Hikmah Bati Berhad current ratio is lower than industry, which is not preferable.
Hikmah Bati required to increase their operating income.
Net profit margin reveals the percentage that is left from the revenue after all the total expenses are deducted.
Net income divided by sales. For net income, you need to take the profit after taxes minus dividend on preference share. So, equals to 8.18%.
Hikmah Bati Berhad net profit margin is 8.18%, meanwhile industry average is 8%. This shows that Hikmah Bati Berhad current ratio is higher than industry, which is good and preferable.
It also need to be increased in their net income for net profit margin.
Return on asset measure how the company manage their asset and use it to generate profit.
It is net income divided by total assets. So, the answer is 12.41%.
Hikmah Bati Berhad return on asset is 12.41% and industry average is 12%. This shows that Hikmah Bati Berhad current ratio is higher than industry, which is good and preferable.
For return assets, it requires to increase net income.
Return on equity. It compares the profitability of the company to the shareholder investment.
It is net income divided by ordinary share plus return earning. So, the answer is 23.97%.
Hikmah Bati Berhad return on equity is 23.97%. Meanwhile, industry average is 20%. This shows that Hikmah Bati current ratio is higher than industry, which is good and preferable.
Return on equity that need to be increased in their profit margins. As an officer that represents Araji Bank, I will be honored to accept the loan application from Hikmah Bati Berhad. The reasons for accepting this loan are consist of Hikmah Bati have high gross profit margin and have high profits. It also owned a bigger inventory and non-current asset turnover. Not to mention that it have a better liquidity ratio, which the abilities of company made short-term obligation.
Now, we're going to the next part is limitation of finite ratio. So the first one is use of historical data. All of the data utilized in ratio analysis is based on only historical data. These figures are based on historical data and we are unlikely to remain constant in the future as business performance shift over. Second one is the concept of inflation, where we compare period by period data of for-trend analysis. If the inflation rate has changed between periods, the comparison is meaningless. The inflation elements is not taken into account at all ratio analysis. The third one is changes in operation. Pre-change and post-change operation figures cannot be compared under any conditions. Utilizing data from the past and forming a judgment based on it is not productive conclusion. The fourth one is no standard definition of ratio. There are no universally accepted definition of ratio and quantities that should be included. When determining a ratio, certain company may include some item while excluding others. As a result, making a comparison between the two companies is challenging. And the fifth one is Time effect. Some ratios use data from the balance sheet, which is only prepared on the last day of the accounting period. As a result, if the number for the last day of the accounting period suddenly raises or falls, it might have a significant impact on the total ratio analysis.
That's all from us. Thank you for watching.